For my final project presentation, my final lesson plan, I'm going to be giving the super shortened version of cultural conflicts, understanding the difference between religious and political conflicts. Like I said, this is going to be the extremely short version. 4 to 6 minutes is a very short amount of time compared to a whole class period. So I'm going to kind of fly through this. All right. So the standard I'm going to be using is standard 3, demonstrate an understanding of the characteristics of culture and cultural patterns and processes across Earth's surface. So I'm going to be following this HG.3.4.HS. Investigate and evaluate the cultural conditions in different regions that play a role in cooperation and conflict over time. So the first thing we're going to establish are the definitions of religious and political conflicts and understanding the differences between the two. So the basic definition is pretty much self-explanatory. For religious conflict, it's war caused primarily by religious differences, and for a political conflict, it's a war caused primarily by political differences. So that can be a number of things: oppression, political arguments, disagreements. So, as you can see, for the religious conflicts, they normally arise as followers of one religion take to the extreme and impose their religious beliefs on others with different religions. And in the next slide, I'm going to give you an example of that. And then political conflicts, like we talked about, um, one group feeling as they have been oppressed by another for too long. And the interesting thing with political conflicts is normally they have the same cultural beliefs and values, but a different standing in society. So it's not like these religious differences. When we have a political conflict, it's between groups that are normally in the same region, in the same area. So I'm going to give an example of Rwanda, which is probably the most telling political conflict that we've seen in the last 20 years. All right. So, for the religious conflict example, we're going to talk about the ever famous Israel and Palestine conflict. So, this has been a conflict that's been going on for more than 50 years between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Both groups are vying over the belief in their religion that Jerusalem is their holy land. This is an issue because when you have the Jewish population in Israel believing that Jerusalem's their holy land, and you have the Muslim population in that same area believing that, that's going to cause war. So, another factor in why this is such an important conflict is the Muslims and Jews are living in such close quarters in this contested area. So we have the Gaza Strip, the West Bank. Those are melting pots in Israel of Muslims and Jews. And quite frankly, they don't like each other very much. So obviously, there's going to be some sort of conflict that happens. And it is still actively going on today. I know recently more fighting just broke out, and quite frankly, there's no end in sight as Western countries normally don't get involved with this anymore. They kind of just let them go at it a little bit. And about 4 years ago, President Trump, when he moved the capital of Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, it just escalated this conflict more because the Palestinians saw that as betrayal and that the U.S. sees Jerusalem as property of the Israelis and the Jews. All right, so for the political conflict, we're going to talk about Rwanda. So this was primarily the Hutus versus the Tutsis, also with the government mixed in a little bit there. So it only lasted 100 days. It lasted from April 7th, 1994 to July 15th, 1994. But in those 100 days, there was over 1 million casualties. Happened in, obviously, Rwanda, which is located in Africa. The fighting stemmed from class issues, which is very common when it comes to political conflicts. So I believe it was between one group was herders and the other were sheep farmers, cultivating the land. So they had really the same cultural values, but the one group felt underappreciated and undervalued, and it led to a civil war and complete destruction of the entire country. As you can see in this picture up top, this is a refugee camp, and the bottom, everyone was used to fight. You can see all the child soldiers there. So it was really a sad time, but it stemmed from class issues. All right, so that is the quick breakdown of political and religious conflicts. So what we're going to do next for an assessment is we are going to exit out of PowerPoint and go to Padlet and do an interactive map. So this is one I actually had my students from last fall do. So this is a map of religious conflicts. So what you're going to do is you're going to do one for religious conflicts and one for political conflicts. So you're going to hit this little add button over here, type a place. So for our religious conflicts, let's do Israel. Boom, you can add a pin. And what I want is you to write about a paragraph kind of summarizing what the conflict is. And the goal at the end is to have a map like this where people have pinned different conflicts all over the world. And hopefully you can centralize where these conflicts happen. So obviously we can see religious conflicts focusing on the Middle East, which makes a ton of sense. So you're going to do one for religious and one for political, and that is going to be it. Thanks.